All right.
All right, let's go to Bucky Irving.
Yeah, sure.
Guy with plenty of juice himself. He led all running backs in yards after contact per attempt last year, fourth in a tackle avoidance rate. He was one of the underlying stats darlings of the season, Matthew, and started to really get some run in the second half of the year.
Yeah, a lot of similarities, by the way, to Chase Brown, somebody who came into the NFL that there were questions about whether this guy could be an every down back. And, from the, second half of the year, he just sort of showed that he could. I mean, they gave him all the work that he could handle as well. From week 6 on, the fifth most scrimmage yards among all running backs as well. In each of his final 6 healthy games, he averaged 17 or more touches. He had at least 17 touches in all 6 of his final games. So again, he can handle a big workload. Rachaad White's already banged up. Love Sean Tucker as a late insurance back, but all the conversations I've had in and around the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization is that they believe this guy is a true workhorse running back that can handle the full load. I'm not worried about the injury to Tristan Wirfs. It's not great, but they'll get him out of the backfield. And it's a similar story as we've seen with the Bengals and Chase Brown, the lead running back on one of the elite offenses in the NFL. And I don't think the Buccaneers, Jay, get the credit NFL-wise for having as elite an offense as maybe the Bengals, because the Bengals have such big star power in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. And while the Buccaneers obviously have some names in Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, it just feels like, I don't know, maybe because they're NFC South or that it's.
Yeah, I mean,
they just don't get talked about like the way some of the elite offenses.
It's a good comparison too, Matthew, because usually when Godwin is healthy, you got the 2 receivers, him and Mike Evans. Bengals the same way. It's just that they're better. Like, you got the better quarterback there, although Baker is really good. You got better receivers there, although Mike Evans is really good. I think that's kind of, and they're very similar. So I think that's why they kind of get talked about a little bit less. But what people don't see about Bucky Irving is 5'9", 190. He's a tough, physical runner, one of the better second-level runners in the league. That's why he's an every down back for this Bucs team.
Yep. We had a question pop up from Eric Johnson about the lack of receiving touchdowns from Bucky Irving. Any concern there, Matthew?
No, I mean, this is somebody who averaged 7.5 yards per target, second highest among running backs with at least 50 targets. And so I think touchdowns sometimes can be a little bit fluky, but what do we know? We know the Buccaneers are a good offense. We know they're going to be scoring position often, and Bucky Irving's going to be on the field quite a bit. And so I think he'll probably get a little bit. And I also think because of the injury to Wirfs, that they will try to use him in the passing game a little bit more, especially with Rachaad White banged up. So understand and appreciate the question, Eric. But no, I don't have any concern about that.
It's also just
he was a part-time player for the first half of the year.
Exactly. And just in general, no matter who you are, running backs don't catch double-digit receiving touchdowns. Even if they're one of the better receiving backs in the league, it just doesn't happen.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, well, Matthew's spoken plenty about Amari and Hampton, Lawrence, so no surprise that the ride or die makes the love list, as is the God-given right.
Feels like it would be awkward if it didn't.
Yeah, it'd be very silly. But Najee Harris, my perennial ride or die, perennial die candidate, really. He's still no timetable to return. The Chargers obviously spent a lot of draft capital on Hampton. He's going to be the guy.
I mean, the closer we get to this thing, we're inching closer and closer week 1, and we don't know when Najee Harris is going to get back. And all that tells me is that, and even when Greg Roman said he's going to share touches, that means he's going to be spelled. That means Amari Hampton is going to get a breather. Every running back needs to come out a little bit. I expect Amari Hampton, being a first-round pick like he is, having the talent that he is, he could catch the ball. He could run the ball. He's a big dude who runs fast. Amari Hampton, week 1 and probably beyond, will be that true 3-down workhorse for the Chargers.
The 2 arguments against Amari and Hampton, who, by the way, can we take camera 1 here for 1 quick second? By the way, can you see that 8 behind me? That's Amari and Hampton, right next to Jaden Daniels. That's the kind of respect this show has for Amari and Hampton. We put him in hallowed real estate right there, next to Jaden Daniels. That's right, look at that shot right there. You got between Justin Jefferson and Jaden Daniels, 2 down from Jamar Chase. That is heady company.
Great company.
Come on now.
You got to live up to that.
And then you got Cam Ward there. All right, whatever.
But Cam Ward was number 1
We don't need to pan out that far. Let's not get crazy. But
tried to play you right there.
Yeah, exactly. What I will say, right. So the viewer knows Juice. I know Amari and Hampton. I met him at the Hall of Fame game. I know Amari, and I'm going to change my avatar to that. Look, the only arguments against Amari Hampton, we all seen the tape, we all know the talent. The only arguments against him is, he's going to be in timeshare with Najee Harris. As you mentioned, Lawrence, we're a week and a half away from the season starting. We have not seen Najee Harris on the field, and that's somebody who's on a one-year prove-it deal versus the guy that spent first-round draft capital. And the other argument is Greg Roman doesn't throw to the running back. Well, except that when he hasn't thrown to the running back, it's because he's had Lamar Jackson. It's because he's had, Tyrod Taylor, guys that kind of duck it and run versus throw it. But think about Justin Herbert when Austin Eckler was there. Justin Herbert had no issue dumping it off to Austin Eckler. That's in his skill set. He didn't dump it off to J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards. Would you? If you were a quarterback, of course you wouldn't.
You wouldn't dump it off to Gus Edwards?
Yeah, exactly. So, the fact that, that Kamani Vidal didn't get peppered with targets last year. Let's get real. Amari Hampton, do I think he's going to get 80 targets? No. But do I think he could wind up with 35 to maybe even 40 receptions? I do. If you look at any of the post-game press conferences that the Chargers had after they drafted Amari Hampton, they kept talking about what a complete running back he is, how good he is at catching the ball, and how they want to use him on third down as well. Ride or die, baby. Ride or die.
Very, very fired up. Question from Sal Vulcano. How early would you reach for Hampton, Matthew?
I'm at 30th overall. I'm at running back 13, but I don't think so certainly third round, into the second if your league is running back crazy. I mean, I have no problem, but I'm still drafting Bucky Irving or Chase Brown ahead of him.
Jonathan Taylor.
You got to think. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor. You got to think,
too.
too.
If Anthony Richardson was starting quarterback, it's more of a discussion. But I'll take JT over him. But, that's the range we're talking about. Right there in that range
also,
of running back.
We're in the middle of fantasy football draft season, so things are going to change by the day. We could get Najee Harris news today, tomorrow, and that could change somebody's draft strategy this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get to others receiving votes, headlined by familiar name in Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, there's a couple of quote-unquote boring names on this list, Jay. So you see it right there. Guys that are going too low because there's sort of boring names who've been around forever, but all they're going to do is produce. You think about Kamara, who's never had a season with a target share below 18%. They just don't have a lot. James Conner. He's been a top 15 running back in all 4 seasons with Arizona, and yet he's going outside the top 15. Travion Henderson, we've talked about him a lot on the show, but Josh McDaniels' teams have ranked top 5 in running back targets 6 of the last 8 years that he's been a play caller as well. Tony Pollard, by the way, Najee Harris, we haven't really talked about this, but Tajay Spears is pretty much banged up. We like the Titans' offense. They're going to be aggressive when Tony Pollard gets work. He's very effective. We like both Broncos guys. Sean Payton so Dobbins and Harvey. We think that's going to be a pretty good offense. Payton does a good job of mixing in his running backs. Both guys are going to be viable. Jordan Mason, I think, has a very good shot at out-producing fantasy points-wise Aaron Jones because of the injuries, because of the touchdown equity. I'm nervous about Ken Walker, guys. I'm nervous about Ken Walker, and Charbonnet has just been killing it in camp. I think there's a non-zero chance that Zach Charbonnet ends up the year with more fantasy points than Ken Walker. But certainly at cost, I actually prefer Charbonnet, even though I love Ken Walker. But Charbonnet's got a good shot at starting week 1. And then, of course, Braylon Allen, that'll play into it. But as our guy Connor Rogers says, in between tears and Mets losses, the Jets want to use Braylon Allen more and more this year. He's at the practices all the time, and he's going to be a much bigger part of this offense. Probably like the David Montgomery. If they're probably installing a lot of what this coaching staff had in Detroit, and so the easy comparison, rightfully so, is the David Montgomery role. You see some of the more late round sleepers. These are guys that in deeper leagues are very rare. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I don't know if you're going to be able to get him late anymore because the hype on him is unreal, but we've been talking about him for a long time. I do believe in the kid's talent. Be a little bit of a timeshare with Eckler and Chris Rodriguez, but I do think ultimately JCM works it out. Shipley is the backup to Barkley, coming off of a season where he touched the ball almost 500 times. We mentioned Sean Tucker when we were talking about Bucky Irving as well. They love Tucker, and with White already injured, Tucker has a chance to maybe get to the number 2 spot as well. Woody Marks, that Houston backfield is wide open. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.